outside? Should I run and hide? How do I take my company worldwide? Do you love the law? Did you watch Hee-Haw? What's the weirdest thing that you ever saw? What's it like in court? Favorite sport? Can you help with my book report? Is my hair too long? Am I right or wrong? And do you mind if I sing along to anything? Ask Alan anything in the world.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Ask Alan, the podcast. I'm Alan Crone, the CEO of the Crone Law Firm, and we've got a great show in store for you today. I'm talking with Georgia lawyer James Grant. James, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Alan, I'm excited to be here. Are you ready to get some sets in here in a few minutes?
I hope so. Well, I wanted to tell us a little bit about you and your firm and what you're up to these days.
Yeah, so I'm the co-founding partner of Georgia Trial Attorneys, and we're personal injury attorneys that help other personal injury attorneys make more money faster and with less stress by serving as their outsourced litigation department. It's a model that we've built on over the last 8 years, and finding a niche is something that you always hear. And a lot of times people just pick one set of this practice area. They're going to say, well, I'm going to practice criminal law or family law or personal injury. Even within any practice area, there's so many ways you can niche down and become a specialist. And that's exactly what we've done, especially over the last 2 years. And it's been a wonderful transition because now I just get to be in the business of helping other lawyers make a whole bunch more money and have a lot more fun doing it.
All right. Well, that's a mouthful, but that's a very intriguing idea. I always say every superhero has an origin story. So I want to talk to you about your origin story. What attracted young James Grant to the law in the first place?
I have no clue because it makes no sense how I got here. I was a civil engineer at Georgia Tech, and then with like a semester and a half to go, I was just like, let's try law school. That'll be fun. And I mean, that's really what it was. There was no grand plan. There was no like, this is my 5 or 10 year plan of something I want to do. It's just like, this will be fun, right? And everyone told me I was crazy, and I probably was. But, you take the LSAT, you apply to law schools, you get in, and you just start making it happen from there.
Well, what kept you in the law? Once you got out or during law school, when was that moment when you said, this is more than just a diversion? This is something I really want to do with the rest of my life.
Yeah, so it had to be my second and third year in school. Most schools have the third year practice act where you're able to, try some cases as long as you're supervised by another attorney. And generally that's through a prosecutor's office. I did that same thing, and I got to try a couple cases in court without even a license. And that's when I was like, oh, this is fun. This is cool. This is performing arts. This is sales. This is entertainment. Like, this is something that's really cool. And that's kind of where I was like, all right, well, whatever I'm going to do, I know it's going to be in some way involved with the courtroom. And that's where I was like, all right, this is the right decision that I made all along.
Yeah, I was a theater major, and although I graduated with a political science degree, but that's a subject for a different podcast. But yeah, it was the drama of the courtroom and kind of the multifaceted nature of it that really got me.
Yeah, I mean, when I really boil it down to, you're really in a sales job, and you're just pitching your side, whether it's the judge, whether it's the jury, whether it's opposing counsel. I mean, you're in a sales role. It's just, who are you pitching to in the given moment? And it's not necessarily really about the facts. The facts obviously have a bearing, but you can have the worst facts in the world. And if you're able to, tell a story and make it emotional, you're going to do so much better every time. And that's just where the fun of it is.
So out of law school, did you hang out your own shingle, or did you work somewhere? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I went to law school in Alabama at a small private school called Faulkner University, got my JD, moved back home to Georgia, sat for the bar, and then I went to work for a prosecutor's office. In Georgia, they do things a little bit different than a lot of other states. The district attorney in most states kind of handles everything, but in Georgia, the district attorney handles felonies, the solicitor general handles misdemeanors. So I went to work at the solicitor general's office, and I mean, I was trying cases left and right for that first 18 months, just getting a multitude of trial experience in different courtrooms with different judges. And I mean, it really just solidified the fact that, yeah, this is where I want to be. I want to be involved in the litigation, the trial aspect side of things. And so then I went to work for a small firm that did what I call door law, meaning, if you walk through that front door and you have a case, they're going to take it. Probably not the best model from a business perspective, because again, the whole, you dabble in everything, you're an expert in nothing. But I met my business partner now, Mark, at that firm. He and I started 2 weeks of each other in October of 2013. And probably about 3 months in, we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, hey, are you ready to do this thing? Like, are you ready to get married? Because effectively that's what we were doing, was starting a business together. And we waited about a year to save up some money. And January of 2015, we opened the doors of Georgia Trial Attorneys. We started with absolutely nothing, no clients, no referral sources, no plan. We were just two dumb lawyers. We pieced it together. We've got some coaching along the way, and we've never looked back.
So when you started Georgia Trial Lawyers, did you start with this model you just explained, or did you just start as lawyers and you developed into this model?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing where we have evolved so much from where we were through the help of our business coaches, because that just opened up a whole nother perspective to us that we never knew existed. When we first started, like I said, I mean, we didn't have a business plan. We were just like, we're going to do great legal things for people, and we're great lawyers, and everything's just going to work, and it's going to be sunshine and unicorns and rainbows. It kind of worked out, but that's not the advisable pathway for starting a business, because we kind of fell into what we learned of. We did family law, we did criminal defense, we did personal injury, we did a few little things that would come along the way, just because in that first year you need cash. You're supporting your business, but you're also supporting yourselves and your family, so you just have to make it work. But once the business became viable, we're like, all right, we have to narrow our practice. About a year and a half in, we picked personal injury. And then over the years, we evolved and narrowed further and further and further to where we are today.
So tell me a little bit about, because every lawyer that I have talked to, including myself, that opens their own firm and starts to grow, at some point has this epiphany about the business of practicing law. When did you have that epiphany?
That epiphany only would have occurred but for our business coaches. There's no way, in my opinion, that Mark and I would have ever gotten there without help of business professionals who have seen it from a multitude of different perspectives, whether it happens to be a business that just so happens to practice law or any other service out there. You really have to start looking at it from the metrics and from the numbers and being objective and planning, as opposed to, well, we've got enough money in the account, so obviously things are great and they're going to be great tomorrow and we're never going to have problems. It's just, boiling it down to that entrepreneurial mindset. And our business coaches that we brought in starting in October of 2018 were really instrumental in helping us develop that entrepreneurial mindset.
All right, so flesh out this, your service in particular. I think I have an idea of what you're saying, but when you say you help personal injury lawyers try cases, what does that look like?
So what we found is most personal injury lawyers are very good at marketing and sales. They know how to get cases, and they're really, really good at it. And the one thing we found in a lot of our research and looking at the statistics of things is, when you look at the scope of an entire case, most cases are going to settle in what we call that pre-litigation phase. You're going to do your marketing, your sales, you're going to sign them up, get them into treatment. You're going to, negotiate with the insurance company when they get done with their treatment. And most of the time, probably 65% of the time, you're going to settle all of those cases in that place. And it's a really high margin, low cost avenue. Well, for those other 30 to 40% of cases that don't settle, they're going to need litigation. But the thing that's different about litigation is your team is so different. The team that you need to run pre-litigation cases is not the team that you need to run litigation cases. So what ends up happening is a lot of firms end up trying to do both with the same team. And the analogy I use is kind of like football and baseball. You can be great at football, but you're terrible at baseball, or you're mediocre or okay. You can't just say, well, I'm a professional quarterback, so I can go out and pitch for the Braves. It's not going to happen. And what we end up doing a lot of times is, well, we hired this great litigation staff because we need our litigation staff. Well, then they end up doing pre-lit. So then you're overpaying for staff members to handle pre-lit cases when they should be exclusively handling litigation cases. So it's this weird dynamic of, if you want to do it well, you really need to have two separate firms, two entirely separate departments that are run on separate books, separate P&Ls, separate metrics and everything, because then you're effectively having the divide and conquer as opposed to commingling all your assets. And what we've been able to offer is to say, hey, if you're good at the hustle market sell of acquiring cases and clients, go do that, because just when you run the numbers, you're going to make so much more money if you can just sign up and get new cases. Then what we can do is, on that 35 to 40% of cases that do need litigation, well, guess what? You've now lost all the expensive overhead of running a litigation team with trial lawyers. And then we split the fee at the end. You get to dump more money into your marketing machine with no cost, no overhead, no expenses, and everybody wins, because then our unique value proposition is, well, that's all I want to do. I don't want to do pre-lit. So our commitment to our partners is, you will not see us do any buses, billboards, TV, radio, digital, ad spend, none of that stuff, because I can't help you if I'm also using a part of your money to then fund an increase in your cost of acquisition. So it's really, like I said, I get to help other lawyers and we get to complement one another, not compete.
That's a fascinating business model, because I agree with you. Pre-lit versus lawsuits, it does take a different. Not only do you need to have different skills, but those things have different cadences to them. And if you're in that litigation cadence, that's a lot different than if you're in the pre-lit cadence. And right now, there are a lot of lawyers that go in and out of those two cadences.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, time, the pre-litigation cases, they're going to settle so much faster. I mean, generally you're looking at an average of, no more than 90 days after a client's done with treatment, the average case is done and closed. Whereas when you move into litigation, you're sometimes increasing, 6, 18, 24 months down the line. A lot of cases do settle, but a lot of cases need trials as well. And so then you're having to float, you're having your staff just give updates when they could just say, hey, we're going to hand it off to this firm that's going to help us grow so we can get back to maximizing our value and our margins in our pre-litigation business.
How does do you find that being able to leverage that with the insurance adjuster is valuable? In other words, hey, look, I'm about to hand this off to our litigation people, and once I do that, this offer is off the table. How does that work?
Yeah, so we have seen an increase in the numbers. Now, for my personal business, sometimes that's difficult because we can see, a sharp increase with onboarding new cases from a new referral partner because they see a benefit. And then, probably about 6 to 8 months later, when the insurance company sees what's happening, we see a drop off because, again, they're settling cases that would have gone to lit because they know they're going to come to us. But again, with us, it's a long view. I can't look at it from a short term. I look at it from a long-term view and a long plan of building a solid relationship for many years. And then the numbers are totally a wash, and it's going to be a great relationship all along.
Well, tell me about how you react to this issue. The more you specialize, the more over time you get the tougher cases, right? I mean, if you're, I do a lot of employment law, and it's out there that we do employment law and we do wage and hour, and we're really good at it. The referrals we tend to get now are the really tough referrals because people know how to handle the low-hanging fruit. So do you think over time you're seeing tougher cases that may be tougher but more lucrative?
No. So our plan is the exact opposite. It's the inverse.
Okay.
my firm is built on a volume perspective. So we handle cases where, the medical bills on the low end can be $5,000 or $6,000. Then up to about $150,000, $200,000 in medical bills. That's where we really cap out. We have some great relationships with some really great trial lawyers on the upper end of the scale. Those cases do not fit into our model just because the SKUs, the workflows are so vastly different when you get into those high 10-figure cases. That it's an entirely different ball game. So you have to have an entirely different staff, an entirely different setup, because you're almost putting all of your eggs in 10 or 12 baskets as opposed to hundreds of baskets with my firm and the volume business that we do. So what we've seen is, we're providing a service on the lower end, and that's actually where we want to stay. And to your point earlier of, yes, a lot of lawyers, especially personal injury lawyers, they know what the process is for litigation. They know how to file a suit, how to get it served, how to go through discovery, how to sit on a deposition. There's no issue with the knowledge component. It just comes down to the time component. Which one, from a cost-benefit analysis, is going to be more worth your time? Going through that litigation process to sit in a 4 or 5 hour deposition and go through a 5-hour mediation, or to dump all that time back into your pre-litigation campaign to go get more cases, which are going to be more valuable. That's where a lot of our relationship building is, helping other lawyers see that, if you want to practice law, that's one thing. But if you really want to own a business that provides a certain lifestyle for you and your family, then you a lot of times need to get out of the practice of law and into running your business and working on it, not necessarily in it. And that's where we can really see a lot of growth.
What if you were talking to a young lawyer who, out of law school, maybe similar to you, worked a couple of different places for other people and had an entrepreneurial bent? Any advice you would give that person on how to approach starting their own law firm?
Absolutely. You have to get a coach, just because we don't know much of anything from a business perspective when it comes to law school and the bar exam. We really just focus on case law and evidence and procedure and the way things legally should work in a perfect world with perfect individuals, with perfect clients. And that's just not the real world. When you step back and look at the vast majority of bar complaints and the reputation that lawyers have across the country, it boils down to bad business skills or no business skills at all. And if we really flip the script and acquire those business skills to then apply to our law firms, then it really can change everything. So that way you're running a business, like I've said so many times, that just so happens to practice law, as opposed to effectively dabbling in a hobby that revolves around you.
Right. And I just lost my train of thought, but because that's a great, I think humility is a great thing for a trial lawyer to have, and particularly a legal, someone who owns a business, because I think a lot of times as lawyers, we're conditioned to believe that we're the only ones who can paint the Sistine Chapel. And a lot of people forget Michelangelo didn't paint it all by himself. He had a team of people. He sketched out the outlines, but they did a lot of the mundane work and a lot of the sophisticated work. How has your model incorporated that kind of professional humility into it?
I mean, yeah, that's priority number one. Is if it goes back to kind of what I was saying, do you want to have a hobby or do you want to have a business? Because if you want to be all things to all your clients, and you want to be the case manager, the lawyer, the receptionist, the paralegal, the janitor, the bookkeeper, the marketer, the CEO, if you want to be all of that and just have a solo or a 2-person team, and when you're doing work, your business is making money, and when you're on vacation, your business isn't, like, if that's what you want, by all means, then go get that and go do that. But if you want to truly build a business that works for you, then you're going to have to acknowledge that you aren't the best at everything, nor can you be. You can't do all of those things well and have your business function properly. So it's to the point of being humble. You have to have the humility to say, I'm not the best at this, and I'm going to go out and find people that are better than me and put them in roles that they want to be in. And then, yes, it's very difficult because you're bringing in somebody that's smarter and better than you. And how do I measure? How do I manage? How do I control someone that knows more than me? Well, you just give them metrics. You don't run a business based on subjective opinion. You just say, these are your metrics. These are your key performance indicators. These are your deliverables. We're going to check it at these intervals, and either you're doing well or you're not. Then it makes it easy, because then you don't have to worry about, well, is this person trying to stab me in the back? It's just, are they performing?
What do you think is the best business decision you've ever made? Or maybe best isn't the right word. What's the most impactful business decision you've ever made?
Oh, the easy one is obviously hiring a coach and having that third person to say, all right, here's the forest, here's the trees. Let's make a plan, and let's kind of, center ourselves and step out from the situation and look at it objectively. It's easy, but like, that's probably the biggest one. The next thing is, as you're growing and as you're scaling, you're going to be doing a lot of hiring. And probably one of the hardest lessons we learned is the old adage of cheap is expensive. When it comes to hiring and bringing on staff and team members, you can't be cheap. I mean, well, you can, but it's really going to cost you so much more in the end. And so when you're venturing out in that hiring, you have to ask, do I want to have an amateur or do I want to have a professional on my team? Yes, a professional is going to cost significantly more than an amateur, but that professional will be able to bring an ROI so much faster than that amateur, and it's going to be a better work product as well. So you gain speed, you gain more revenue. It's just better to go with the professional from the beginning and invest that money, because it's going to pay dividends in the end.
Yeah, a good corollary to that is don't hire for potential, hire for performance that you need right now. Now, that can be a both and, right? I mean, you could hire the best entry-level paralegal that has the potential to be a senior paralegal, or an associate that has the potential to be a great trial lawyer. But if you need a great trial lawyer, yeah, you need to go out and hire somebody who's been there, done that, rather than somebody says, oh, this kid reminds me of me. I think I can mold her into. Oh. That's admirable. That may be admirable if that's your business, is mentoring lawyers. But if you need somebody that can take a deposition tomorrow, you need to hire somebody that's taken a bunch of depositions.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the mistake that so many lawyers make, is they first, in the interview process, they say, all right, I'm going to make an emotional bond, and then we'll move on to the technical requirements, where you got to flip the script. You got to say, do you have the technical expertise first, whittle it down to those candidates, and then out of the 3 or 4 candidates that have the exact technical expertise you need, then see if they fit the culture of your firm. Because when you flip it, it's never going to work, because you don't know what you're getting. And then you're going to make concessions. Oh, well, I like them. Oh, I can't judge them. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do that, because, we get along and we're a family. You can't run a business that way. Right.
Yeah. I have said for years, our firm is not a family. We all have families, and we work to feed our families. We may be a team. We may be colleagues. We may like each other a lot professionally and personally, but we're not a family. And I think once professional sports teams all the time trade or cut really nice people because they're not giving the organization what they need. And that's what you've got to do. And it can be tough. Nobody, unless you're psychotic, nobody likes to fire anybody. I mean, nobody gets up in the morning and says, oh, good, I get to go fire Fran today. For most people, as an employment lawyer, I can tell you, it's a traumatic event for everybody in that equation. But if you've done your homework up to that point, that may be the best thing you can do for your organization, but also the best thing you can do for that person if they're not in a position where they can really, really succeed.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more. especially as you scale a business. The business that you are running today is not going to be the business that you're running next year or the year after, at least in theory. If your business is growing and scaling, if you're the way you ran your business at $200,000 a year cannot be the way you run your business at $2 million a year. And it's going to be different team members that aren't going to be able to come on that journey with you because they're really good at this level. And so many times we want to push people into management roles or new positions or promote them where that may be what they want in theory, but in practicality, that's not what they need because they're actually going to fail. So really making sure that you have your glide path of all your employees of where they can go and where they should go and what training they need to acquire those roles really is going to help you as a business owner to put the right people in the right seats.
That's right. Well, I'm going to have to let that be the last word. It looks like we're just about out of time. James, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this intriguing business model with us. I think it's a fascinating way both to attract business, but also to provide a service to your clients as well as your referral sources of kind of laser-like focus on litigation work. So I wish you the best of luck in all of that.
No, thanks for having me on. And hey, I mean, like I said earlier, you come down here, we'll throw some weight around in the gym.
All right, I'll do it. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching this episode or listening to this episode of Ask Alan, the podcast. If you enjoyed this, please share us on social media, give us a review, just get the word out about the podcast and get the word out about James Grant. James is going to go litigate some cases and make some personal injury lawyers money, and I'm going to go get some justice. Thank you all very much.